Hello, I'm documenting the break-in of the modified PSAudio DAC, the DLIII, and this is day 4 of the break-in period. And now I have about 24 hours of break-in, uh, and today I have experienced that it came into a stage of the break-in where I don't need to use the feedback on the amplifiers anymore. So if I keep the feedback off, then it sounds noticeably much better compared to employing the feedback. So just let me reiterate what I told about this in the previous diaries, is that at the beginning of the break-in, I had to engage the feedback in the power amps, and engaging the feedback improved the low frequency and the high frequencies tremendously. It also improved the mid-range actually, and it also took off the edginess from the sound. So employing feedback on the amplifier drastically improved the sound of the DAC as well. And the most drastic change was at first when it was totally fresh and had about 1 hour of break-in on it, and then as I was increasing the numbers of the unit, the effect of the feedback became I would say it not didn't become less and less. It stayed, the sound stayed as it was, but without the feedback it was gradually catching up with that scenario when I employed the feedback on the amps. And today, now without feedback, it has clearly eclipsed that scenario when I'm employing the feedback to quite a big degree. And this jump is really startling compared to yesterday. And what I haven't told you guys yet is that during the break-in, the three-dimensionality of the sound was really drastically opening up. So in the beginning, I heard the sounds like located towards the generic area of the speakers. So these speakers, even though they are gigantic, but they truly disappear. Of course, you hear that speakers are disappearing every day, but when you are a more seasoned audiophile, you know that the speakers disappearing act is something that when you live with such speakers that entirely disappear, then you get used to them and eventually you can locate those speakers. And when you jump to the next level, they seem to have disappeared again, but living with them, you learn to identify the cues by which you can pick up the location of the speakers. And now these loudspeakers, because they are run in an omnidirectional mode, and really the information that's directly shooting at you contains such low frequencies that carry no precise location cues. These are truly excellent at truly disappearing. But when you have a source that doesn't do a good 3D rendering, and this deck didn't do a good 3D rendering because it was in a very early stage of break-in, so the sound seemed to have radiate in the general proximity of the loudspeaker, and I could not pinpoint it actually, but all the sound was in the front of the room and around this area. And as it started to break in, that sound field started to growing out and out and out, and enveloping more and more of the room, and also going beyond the speakers, going out as well, and going towards me as well, and going up, going down, going back, and by now it's really enveloping the entire room. And when in the movies I am watching something that there's like a dog barking in the neighborhood, it really feels like there's a dog like outside somewhere barking. And sometimes it's just so creepy, I really have to look out the window to see if that was the neighbor's dog barking or was it coming from the movie, because the two have the same cues of authenticity. So actually now I'm at 24 hours break-in over the course of 4 days, so like couple hours listening and then let it sleep and then turn it again, listen, let it sleep, and so on. So the break-in consists of not just running hours but also recovery time, when the deck is not actively producing a signal but it's resting and recovering. So basically the parts are under stress and then they are allowed to just equilibrate and equalize, and then again stressing and then letting it rest and heal. And now this is the fourth cycle of expansion and contraction basically, and I arrived to this point where without feedback even the bass response is just so much cleaner and better. And if I engage now the feedback on the amplifiers, now the response is the exact opposite what it was when it was at the beginning of the break-in. So right now what I notice is that the basically the mid-range gets hazy, and the voices and everything becomes dull and lifeless. It's kind of like almost like splashing dirty washing fluid all over the image, and it just smears, or like on your windshield when you have like someone just splashing it with some junk or dirt or some fluids, and you cannot see through clearly, and it's very noticeable. There's a huge jump in worsening of the sound when the feedback is engaged. And I'm saying that by now, without the feedback, so now the deck is better than it was before the modifications. Its dynamic capabilities have truly increased quite a bit, even to the degree that sometimes it's really really scary, like that big dynamic range, that it has that effect on your body to elicit the scare response. And but it still has a way long, I would say not that long way to break in, but I have still a little bit of loudness cues present. So which means that I have the urge sometimes that if I listen too loud, then it gives those cues for my hearing that I'm listening too loud. So it means that there's some higher order distortion creeping into the sound that tells my ears it's too loud. And when that is done, that's when the break-in is done to I would say to a degree when I consider it that it's now nicely broken in. But these loudness cues like 2 days ago were way more pronounced than what they are now. Now they are really faint, really soft, and I would say they are at a fraction of what you hear at the best of the stereo systems in general. But to me, even that is not acceptable. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit picky. My hearing is extremely picky in the high frequencies, and I tolerate absolute zero high order distortion and intermodulation and nastiness in the top frequencies. And that might be because my hearing is pretty darn sensitive in the high frequencies. And actually it turned out recently that I can hear 20 kilohertz pretty clearly. I will talk more about that and how you can gauge your own hearing, and what are the conditions when we can hear 20 kilohertz and so on, because this is not so obvious. And even if you just do a hearing test, the results you get are not the whole truth of the story, so there's much more to it, but that's a topic for another day. So right now I'm just happy to say that the deck by now has broken into such a degree that it has surpassed its presentation from before the modifications. So that's it. Please like, subscribe if you like it, and keep on following how the break-in is continuing during the course of the next couple of days, weeks. So when I feel and I experience that there's another stage in the break-in, I will report that. So everyone, have a good night. Bye bye.